All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the ESL 1 Cologne Major Offline Qualifier. That's right, teams are here to play for their chance to enter Lanxess Arena to play for $1 million. We're now down to our 20th game of this qualifier, but who's counting? I am Mitch Lesney. If you have just joined us, you missed a very interesting game there as well. It was Dignitas falling down to an incredibly well-prepared Hellraisers on Nuke. But this next game should also tickle your fancy. It's going to be off stage as well, as we do actually have Cloud9 and Tyloo setting up for the next one. But of course, kicking off with OpTic will be the first team here as well, who by rights should almost have won their game on the first day, but it was Gambit Gaming who pipped them to the post and took the game 16-14. Then of course they went on against Fluffy Gangsters yesterday and put on a much better showing. Their train looked incredibly well rehearsed and Fluffy Gangsters didn't seem ready at all for what they were bringing. Then there's their opponents, FlipSid Tactics, who on day one really struck at the heart of Renegades, bringing them down in what seemed like quite an easy game. But later on, we also did see them fall earlier on. It was a solid T-side put up against them on Cobblestone yesterday, and that's why they find themselves here at 1-1. Again, the winner of this game will go to tomorrow with one game away from qualifying for the Major, and the same for the losing team, except they'll be one game away from being eliminated from this tournament and not being able to enter the Arena of Dreams in Cologne. Enough from me now as well. Let's pass it over to our expert Des to start to put this game more under the microscope. Alex?
I feel like the microscope's more for you, Mitch. I know you've got some scientific roots behind you, but let's go into this one and do our very best to understand where both of these teams are at. We have kind of seen, of course, this is the one-win, one-loss scenario, and I do want to just investigate, where these wins and how these losses came about. First kind of discussion I'd like to start with is OpTic. North American team, I've already stated that they are quickly climbing the ranks in North America, and some are just, opening the discussion about them being one of the best in the region. But now what I want to do is just kind of understand how much we should read into that OpTic. Feels like a bit of a throw versus the Gangsters. Their loss on Cobblestone.
Yeah, no, I definitely think we shouldn't read too much into OpTic's, I guess, lackluster performance in the second half versus Gambit. I definitely think they can have a better showing, and we talked about it. We didn't necessarily mention it during the post-game, but we talked about it in the green room, the fact that Mixwell rarely has two bad performances in a row, where he basically just isn't able to have any sort of impact. And we saw that in the following game. Mixwell was back at the top when they were playing Train versus Fluffy Gangsters, and rightly so. So wouldn't be too worried if you're OpTic, at least in going towards Cobble, if that's what you're thinking.
It was Gambit, wasn't it?
Yeah, Gambit on Cobble.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Okay, got my wires crossed, but what I was trying to suggest was 11-4 half.
Yep.
Shouldn't really be throwing that away into CT side Cobble, but let's not hold it against them. They are, of course, sitting 1-1. So are their adversaries. Blue, let's talk a little bit as to FlipSid. Now, this is a team that hasn't missed a single major, and they don't look to be wanting to make the same mistakes again. I say that, the maps are already on screen, so why don't you all talk us through them as well?
I mean, well, here's the problem, just to answer your actual question there, FlipSid, is they looked extremely sloppy, specifically on their CT side, just because of how poorly the economy was managed. One of the big things that they need to be able to succeed with is getting World at that off in his hand, and I think in the entire CT half, he got it at most like 2 or 3 times. So with him really struggling just to get that into his arsenal to begin with, and when he did, he was fairly hit or miss. It just led to a very lackluster FlipSid for the entirety of their match yesterday, and they kind of just got walked over by their opponents.
I can see you're chomping at the bit to talk about maps, Halvor.
No, it's going to be interesting because both teams actually usually ban out Dust 2, so you can see it's not been vetoed out just yet, so I think they're playing a bit of cat and mouse.
Oh, okay, sigh of relief, no more Nuke.
Yeah, and I'm expecting Dust 2 to go away here. I'd be surprised actually if we saw Dust 2 coming through, because it's not a map that neither of these teams play a whole lot. But then again, we saw Nuke last time, so
the problem then though is that you let it run the train, where I feel like OpTic gets a pretty big advantage.
FlipSid are a pretty good train team as well. Yeah, so FlipSid do follow, I guess, logic, to put it that way, and they're not going to throw us for a loop like Hellraisers did.
So OpTic gave them the choice, though. Obviously comfortable on both Train and Dust 2. We have seen Train once before for OpTic, as you did touch on already. Where does this leave us in terms of predictions? I know it's quite early to start that discussion. It's just that I feel like this is one of those ones where, in fact, in your words just off air, Blue, you suggested that this could be a little bit scrappy between the two of them.
Yeah, I do think it will be, but I think with it going towards Train, we're actually OpTic, if we go back like a couple of months, they were horrendous on their T side on this map. And in fact, I was always curious as to why they actually went for it, but they've recovered quite nicely in the past about month to 2 months on the way that they play this T side. So it's actually a pretty solid map for them, and I think just based on that, combining it with the fairly poor CT side of performance, which is incredibly crucial, and it relies a lot on the op presence too, that we saw from FlipSid yesterday, I feel like OpTic does have a pretty big advantage going into this one.
The one worry for me is that obviously we have Blade leading the charge for FlipSid. They're a team that known to have solid set of strategies, and they're also known for actually, well, being very aware of what the opponent is doing. With OpTic having played Train already once at this qualifier versus Fluffy Gangsters, already you have some insight as to what's going on the NA side.
And you've hit the next point I wanted to hit, of course, quite quickly. As you can see, the knife round is going down, but we have already seen OpTic on Train. Was there anything takeaways from that, or was that just Fluffy Gangsters out of their depth?
I think that was Fluffy Gangsters out of their depth. For a large part of the OpTic's T side, they were allowed to roam freely out in the yard, and they weren't really put under a lot of pressure, except for when Little had an op and basically destroyed the entire team.
Right.
Don't think that's going to happen versus FlipSid. They're way too experienced and have, I guess, too good of a leadership and foundation of, around themselves to actually let OpTic just freely roam around on Train.
Okay, so you kind of hinted at you've alluded to your predictions, but this one I do want to separate the desk. What are you going to think first, Halvor? Round out your point with a team name.
I'm going to just simply say I believe in FlipSid for this.
Now, Blue, I had an inkling you might be flying a North American flag for this one.
Yeah, actually I am. I think I'm pretty sure OpTic's going to be able to take this one. I think it's going to be a pretty close matchup, though, so we'll have to wait and see.
A close one on Train. Of course, with it being on Train, both of these teams, should they pick up the win, will be on the right track in order to getting to that major. They will put them at 2 wins, 1 loss, and will be just 1 win away from the Lanxess Arena, which will, of course, be determined over on Sunday. One more day of CS following this one, but they have to get over this hurdle right here, right now. OpTic and FlipSid is going down on Train. Your casters are ready.
Thank you, Alex, and yeah, we are ready for this one. Both looking forward to this map. I think we kind of thought, as you said, between Cobble and Train, probably going to give us a good matchup here. What are your thoughts going into this? Because they're actually pretty split on the desk.
Yeah, I actually agree. I think what Blue said is pretty much totally where I come down as well. It's going to be very close. I can see this maybe even going the full distance, but I'm going to slightly side with FlipSid. I think Mixwell's had a couple of poor performances. Will that it's a very, very powerful AWP on Train, so I'm going to slightly go with FlipSid. But how about yourself, Lauren? Where do you come down?
I'm pretty much with you on this. I think you're absolutely spot on in that. Sadly, Mixwell's not been having the most consistent performance. He's had some outstanding moments, some games where he started to look a little better, and actually Train was one of them. But we'll find out if that's the case. We're already live into this one on the T side. It will be OpTic trying to take themselves already towards that B side. A massive hit coming straight through. No taking prisoners on this, and they're going straight for the fights.
We'll let it though with 2 quick fire headshots. So even though the bomb's gone down, I'm not really too dismayed about that. And there's Shara as well, so just a punishing retaliation after the bomb was planted. Of course, it's very easy to get that bomb planted on the B site, the easier of the 2 in these kind of pistol eco situations. But what can Daps get done? Does some damage, goes down, so FlipSid will get the successful retake, but OpTic now have options with their economy.
Yeah, have to look to see what they go for in the next couple of rounds, but very explosive start from them. I think, as you said, very poignantly, very much just focused on getting that bomb down at B, trying to get it into place. Sadly for Daps, didn't have a molly to play off or anything else to kind of put into place. I think they already utilized it by that connector area. So as I said, these shots coming forward, and it certainly tipped the tables into their hands. So OpTic Gaming just going to kind of forego this one, just going to buy down to around 2k to ensure they can get something into the third. And again, if they can get another bomb plant, actually pretty decent from this, but it might not be so easy now that they have those SMGs, the UMPs there to kind of tear these guys apart. And Shara might be the one to receive a hell of a lot of attention very soon.
Certainly will be, you have to feel. Does have a bit of support from Will. It's a UMP at long range, not necessarily the best weapon, but we know he has some pretty sick aim. But as you highlighted, it looks like it is going to be another B play. As the flashbang comes out, Shara has to just turn tail and run away, live to fight another day. That bomb is going to get planted regardless of what happens afterwards. So job really done for OpTic. They're not going to get anything else out of this. Maybe a kill if they're lucky, but this is just more money in the bank for round number 3, which is really where their attention was turned to anyway.
Yeah, the flash worked well enough. Shara, and I think it was, I'm not sure who else was on that side. There was one other person with it. It may have been WorldEdit already there. Both the UMP players, both got flashed enough that allowed the players to come out. So yeah, OpTic Gaming just going through the motions. Their T side so far, overall, if you look in this event from start to where we are now, has been actually the better side for them out of all things, which has been kind of weird to see, but very well constructed, nicely played through. So I'm hoping we get to see more of that coming into this one. Now we're into the important round, the bigger round, when those guns get to at least come out to play. We've got the rifles coming out, of course, for OpTic. No AWP to be seen, a lot of utility to boot, but WorldEdit has got himself the AWP. So again, this is one of the matches where I want to see how well he performs here. Certainly has the chance to find a bit of form, and already going quite aggressively up here towards that Train 2 to try and find a bit of an angle, but OpTic waiting patiently, but this could be a pretty explosive hit when they hit that go sign.
Certainly will, especially as Mixwell was caught in 2 minds. He did exactly enough for a glass cannon AWP, but decided to go for the AK instead, which definitely would lead credence to the idea of them going for that set play. And I thought they were going to pull the trigger right off the bat there, Lauren, but deciding to hold fire for now. And this is going to put FlipSid in 2 minds as to where this aggression should come down, but OpTic are just going to be playing the time for a little while longer.
Yeah, the things they've got the mollies as well.
Yep.
You know what I mean? They can clear out these corners much quicker than if they felt pressure beyond that. But Mixwell having a little peek up and over. I'm not sure if Blade either got an idea of this or wondering about it, but that molly's going to push him out, at least from the close spot. And FlipSid haven't pushed that close, to be fair. Blade, Waylander, all holding relatively close to the site, and this clock is starting to run a little lower. And eventually OpTic will have to pick up the pace. Naf can go for the split through Ivy if he fancies it. Bomb's still down by the T-spawn pretty much. So again, OpTic will need to keep in mind that they do need to go back and collect that and still bring it to play. But you can see Markov and Naf just kind of in a little bit of a battle here, just kind of jiggle peeking back and forth. No one wants to overextend or get him away, but Markov now unable to see down towards Ivy. Molly to follow, doesn't find anything, goes to the smoke. So now Mixwell already goes out. This looks like it's time for the hit metas.
It certainly is, and that opening pick from Rush could be so important. Of course, everything comes down to those entry frags, and the first one in the hands of OpTic. However, still 4 players alive, and FlipSid did a good job of holding on to as many grenades as possible, so they've thrown them down the site. Now Fly comes through with a kill, and a missed opportunity for World, and it probably seals the deal as far as FlipSid are concerned. It's looking so good for OpTic with a bomb planted.
Extremely competent take coming out from OpTic, and Naf playing a huge role in that, working his way through, down by Ivy as well, picking up 3 en route. It has left World alive, but keeping hold of this AWP is going to become a little bit too tough to be able to do so, as Stanislaw will take him out of it, and 4 players staying alive. Bomb plant to boot. OpTic are playing a very clean game so far. Sure, they didn't pick up the first couple of rounds, but as soon as they got that buy-in, you can see that power that comes through on their T side. And while even for Mixwell, he gets to go straight to the AWP now, recovered for free pretty much. So much better position for him. And hopefully we get to see what he can bring out, because he's been hit and miss throughout this one. And has, of course, put FlipSid down to just pistols.
Yeah, completely correct as well. Mixwell hasn't had the best of tournaments so far, I think it's safe to say. He's been up and down. So this would be his moment to maybe shine and say, look, there's a reason why the hype's behind me. And this is the kind of map as well. Train is a very comfortable map in terms of AWPers, and it's where you see the kind of separate the men from the boys, as it were. World Edit with pistols alongside the rest of his team. They had an option to go for a force, but it would have left them in a very sketchy position, so I actually prefer them holding off for now.
And they are known by some as the mini Na'Vi, who kind of do stay away from forcing up in situations that can warrant either choice, and they do like to approach it in more of a classical way. You see Blade there just sitting down on the Deagle, a couple of P250, so a very light investment, but enough maybe they could get a gun away. Ideally, if they imagine they could get that AWP away from Mixwell, that'd be fantastic, but these sort of rounds FlipSid will take to just discuss this. And again, you've got to say it, FlipSid are no slouches on this map at all. They have some real power here when it comes down to their play. If you look online, at LAN, they do come into their own, and I wouldn't say this one's anywhere near defined yet. These two teams still have a lot to bring, and look at the kind of approach from OpTic as well. Very respectful in this. They're not going to be rushing this. We're not just going straight out. I guess I look towards, the fluffy gangs who just kept running out to these sides, kept going for the straight up aim fights. Didn't work out too well for them in the end. But at this point, very cautious play from OpTic. Very slow, very well built, and hopefully they don't suffer too many losses considering their approach here.
Well, from this point, with this much time, you've got to fancy that the AKs and the AWP are going to reign supreme. I just can't see how FlipSid get anything out of this. Although Blade darts through the smoke and is going to get at least the reward of Stanislaw's life going down with him, but as expected, the rest of FlipSid drop like flies, and OpTic will be getting us back to an even playing field. But FlipSid, as a result of their patience, will have a solid buy coming through into round number 5.
That's what you've got to be looking forward to. If you are a FlipSid fan, keep your eyes locked onto those rounds. I'm hoping maybe we get to see some aggression throughout this map as well from the FlipSid guys on the CT side. Not exactly renowned for their aggression on this, but it's certainly a massive factor, either pushing them through the ground holes, just disrupting that default that OpTic was seeming to try and go for, but there we go. Actually a little bit of a threat from what it did get shut out by Rush. So they keep 3 alive, maintain the AWP, able to reinvest comfortably enough now for OpTic, but as we see, double AWP coming out, and Markov actually going towards this as well, which is a lovely addition. I know for a couple of fans out there who are sitting there going, maybe it's coming back, maybe Markov's found something here, but we'll see. I'm not too sure on that myself, but I hope so. It's always a pleasure to watch him on the AWP, but maybe this is the answer to how they want to approach OpTic's kind of foray so far.
As OpTic have been a bit slower, and that's where the double AWPs could definitely pay off. Waylander with a bit of aggression through into Pop, gets the better of Rush, and that's a great opening start as the deadlock is lifted. FlipSid desperately need to hold on to this advantage. Nafly did spot a glimpse of a player, which will be Markolov, who's 0 for 2 at the moment, but it's obviously early days, and I'm sure he'll be hoping that AWP can sing for him, but fairly tentative start. FlipSid have definitely got the advantage, though.
Oh, even more so with that double AWP into play, and arguably you go for sight hits when there's double AWP, but Train doesn't always kind of play by those rules. It's still incredibly viable with 2 AWPs, even on A if you have to do it at one point. At the moment, World Edit and Markov very much split between the sides, of course. No real threat yet coming from OpTic, but down to about a minute. OpTic will start having to look towards one of these sides, and you can see Stanislaw starting to stretch his legs. He's so careful of these corners because Waylander already pushed up once, found Rush, so doesn't quite know where he could be, but already backs away, and you can see the kind of default enough smokes being lined up here, possibly for that A hit, but that bomb yet to commit any other way. Stan's probably going to be the one to pick that up and have to run it towards that side.
One of the issues for FlipSid is a lack of grenades, but to be honest, with the double ops, that somewhat mitigates that problem, because it allows you to turret yourself in, dig yourself deep, and just rain down with the artillery strikes. But Nafalai straight through with the AK, beautiful frag from Stanislaw, who just pops out of Pop Dog, and Daps in the meanwhile will put down Markelov. What a fantastic flurry of action, heavily favouring OpTic now as the bomb planted, and one of those two aforementioned ops in play, and in the hands of World Edit, they nearly line up for him, and will land the headshot into Stanislaw.
The trades are so good then for OpTic, but as you said, down to this 2v2, Mixwell and Daps up against World Edit and Shara, and good flash to deny Mixwell the angle on this one will force him to back away. You can see that Shara got found by Daps pushing in towards Pop, and now it's down to World Edit holding the corner. He knows this one's going to be pretty almost impossible by this point. Doesn't hit the shot. Mixwell punishes, and there you have it. OpTic back into the swing of things now. Even after losing out on that initial player there of Rush going down Pop, they still recovered well enough, and they forced FlipSid down to another very poor position money-wise on, what, 2.7 maxing out here. So again, pistols galore at this point, but it will be a chance for them to talk this through, because at the moment, that dash of aggression seemed to work quite well, but then they just can't trade into this as well as OpTic are. As soon as OpTic take this site, everything's favourable to them.
Well, that's the thing, we often will talk about the strategic play and the tactics, but at the end of the day, if you run out and get entry frags, then you can throw that playbook out the window. And that's exactly what OpTic did. It was beautiful play. You can see aggression again from FlipSid as they're on the pistol, as you mentioned earlier. And that's as a result of heavy committing into a double AWP setup. They had no funds to come back to. So this is OpTic's chance now to just stretch their legs a little bit further, get more of a lead. And I just can't see them slipping up from this point, especially considering that the pistol they do have, like P250 is a solid pistol, but it's no 5.7, it's no Deagle, so it's going to be a lot harder to get those one-taps in effect.
Yeah, 100%. And you can see how meticulously the OpTic guys are checking this. Daps just going on a bit of a spree, just padding it out for himself. If you want some confidence to be built, it's always good to get a player to getting on those eco frags, but nice recovery from World Edit. Going to find himself a rifle. That's worthwhile keeping hold of. Looking at their money, it is not good at this point in any way, shape or form. They've been struggling up and down in these rounds after the first two back-and-back. They've been pretty close as well, so nothing to be really recovered through that. So Daps is going for a little bit of a lookout as well, but World Edit, I think, is just going to try and find a nice little corner and just wait this one out.
That's exactly it. They would be able to buy next round anyway, but this allows World Edit now to potentially drop the AK and get himself an AWP instead, which obviously bolster their arsenal that much more.
Yep.
And at the same time, as a result of the two defuses that came in and the fact this is going to be the fourth consecutive round for OpTic, they're now just swimming in money. They've got 7,000 on Mixwell, they've got 6,000 on Rush. It's obviously going to be more at the end of this round, so they are going to be looking good for the next 2 or 3 rounds. They're going to be sat pretty on a fair, hefty amount of money themselves.
Yeah, this is when FlipSid need to find an answer to this. And these guys are more than capable. They are a team that does have that mental fortitude that they can turn deficits around. They don't just kind of get bogged down in that sort of, I guess, one-dimensional play. They definitely have more to bring than that. So double up again, though. Massive investments coming out from these guys here. I guess at this point you kind of have to go for it, but still, this is a good T-side from OpTic, so hopefully they found the answer this time, because it looks like a little bit of a quicker peek from Mixwell again, going to get himself straight out there. You can see down by train 1, the two CT players going to make their presence certainly noted. And look at this 4-play stack as well on towards A. They've left Shara to solo out on B. Everything else is going to be poured down through Ivy, where Markelov does connect, but doesn't take out Naf.
Nice reaction speed. Unfortunate not to get the kill, but as he said, legs him down to 16 goes Nafalai. And I guess the idea from FlipSid's perspective is the last round they lost with a double AWP setup just came up off the bat of crazy entry frags. They can almost kid themselves and say, we weren't necessarily outplay strategically, they just landed like, you know, a couple of quote-unquote lucky headshots or whatever, you know, as you'll hear a lot of players saying. So they can go back to this again, they can take 2. And who knows, maybe this time they'll be the aggressors. They'll be able to get the first kills and just put this round to bed. So far, the OpTic are starting to make some moves through Ivy. How Markelov misses that shot. That looked dead on to me. But Wayland is there to pick up pieces.
The problem is, though, they're being pinched in here, the CT side. They push through to expect maybe more presence through kind of team main, but at the moment, Daps and Rush now have themselves surrounded, but Daps dealing with Markelov means this is back onto a very even playing field. Wayland has been singled out. They found so many individual 1v1s, it's brought just down towards Shara, and again, it looks like OpTic have this one in the bag. The dink comes in, and Shara gets pushed away. Good stuff from OpTic towards the later stages of that round, even after Naf got tagged up the start. Again, so much power to their play, so much commitment, and Markelov should be hitting shots like that every day of the week.
Absolutely. And he's on 1 for 5, and he's had an AWP twice, so you can't really give him any excuses. He's had the opportunities to build off. He missed a bit of a sitter on Ivy. The thing is as well, correct me if I'm wrong here, Lauren, but other than the pistol rounds, I think OpTic have gone A every single round after that. They have not executed onto B just yet. So
you're right.
they've obviously highlighted this as a weakness, and here we go again. High progressive play, and Mixwell lands the flick shot.
What on earth is going on for FlipSid? They are so lost for an answer here. Mixwell is having a whale of a time, peeks up, sees Blade, goes back in and gets the dominance, but it's now to find World Edit on towards that bomb train. And now the 3 players left are just scrambling for scraps. They have no angles to hold. Blade and Markloff are completely shut out from this. Look at it, Blade's having to back away. Markloff's tucked into kind of a horrific corner here as that bomb will be planted any second now. Daps has caught out Blade, and there you have it. It's just Markloff left standing with one flash and, well, his tail between his legs here. As OpTic are just looking so dominant.
On the T side as well, it's just been easy to get out on the sites. They haven't even needed that many flashes or smokes. Just walking out, realizing that FlipSid will be likely been a fairly sketchy buy without any AWPs. And now FlipSid are in that almost nightmare situation of do we or don't we? They could go for a half buy, then get a decent buy in the next round, but the currency that matters now is at the top of your screen, which reads OpTic are way out in the lead on their T half of train.
Don't get me wrong, I argue for some teams they can make this far more competitive on the T side. So you look at Na'Vi, for example, they have a very good T side on things like Train. They can actually very much perform on it. But not every team can apply to those rules. And normally FlipSid, actually oddly enough, are one of the teams who can play to that almost Na'Vi style on occasion. At the moment, they're just getting absolutely trounced. Okay, so Wilder already gone. Onto a pistol though. Still have the P250s and the Zeus. I love that little noise it makes. It's just great. It makes me happy in a really odd way. It is.
That's a bit creepy.
A lot of me is very creepy. All right, you should know this by now. People don't know that I've known you longer than most. You should realise I'm a bit weird. Don't just sit there and laugh at me now.
Aren't we all?
Yeah, pretty much. Would we do this job otherwise?
That's true.
Yeah.
That's very true.
All right, Shara. 1v4. I believe in you.
The issue as well, just going back to the point that you're raising about a lot of teams are going to be more prudent on their T side and be able to just wreck through. I don't mean this in a disrespectful way, although it's going to sound like it. I don't think FlipSid have a top-class entry fragger, and you need one on Trey. You need one. You need someone to pile out and get those opening picks we've seen OpTic doing.
Well, that's always the point, isn't it? It's been that they miss the firepower that your likes of Na'Vi have, for example, or anyone else. And I go back to the Na'Vi example just because there's such a kind of parallel teams by a lot of analysis as well, and you don't see that style firepower. You sometimes get a little glimpse, like Waylander will have a big game, or it will be really good for one map or two, and then maybe Blade, but it's never consistent, it's never good enough that you can depend upon. And again, back in on this double AWP. They're relentless at it, and Markloff has not been having success, and we are seeing something very different here. I think that actually OpTic have gone, they're stacking for A. What happens if we just go B once, or just pile down through pop? And Shara and World Edit, World gone back towards A as well, so Shara's the one who's going to have a lot into this round to make any difference.
Because they put so much presence on A time after time after time. FlipSid are just stacking it, as you said, but they do have a player on the sweep roll, which is World Edit with his AWP. He needs to go back again if needs be. Shara and Daps, a bit of confrontation between the two. Shara loses his life, does at least get the first kill of the round. Grenade goes in, negligible damage at best onto Daps, and that's not going to deter them from going down. Here comes the pop flash, and they're not really pulling the trigger afterwards. They're trying to isolate FlipSid and over-rotate onto the B side, but in fairness to FlipSid, they're having none of it just yet.
You almost wish that maybe NAF this round had been working through Ivy or something, really get that massive lurk on throughout this map. It can be so vital. But I'm wondering how FlipSid now respond, because they've seen nothing else now. Do they assume that they've gone back? Do they assume they're just waiting out the pace? Well, it is pretty much not left as solo B. You've got Markloff now kind of playing the jump between role. Now showing presence at A may speed them up on towards B. Naf and Daps are the ones who can make the big, quick reactions. And it looks like Mixwell going to be going down pop. And actually, they are still going to commit towards A here, assuming Mixwell can do some work with that AWP. Problem being, Waylander's up by Electric. Oh, great connection towards Markloff. It's down to Waylander to hold him back, and he's done just that. 2 kills back-to-back, but it's a 1v2, and Daps is already down to 25.
Plus only 22 seconds as well, so he's got to get a move. And he has the bomb, but has no life left. FlipSid have got a third. The sad stat, though, Markloff in that round got his second kill of the entire map alongside Blade. They need those two to step up if they want to have any chance at bringing this map back.
Yeah, 3-7. Scoreline-wise, you'd hope they close out all the rounds off the back of this if you want a normal sort of scoreline, I guess, to what you hold Train to. But credit to Daps as well, having a very big game for himself, certainly performing above what, not necessarily I'd expect, but headlining for the OpTic side. And Mixwell going to be once again going back to what works. And it looks like we're going for, again, the more default approach here. A little more attention towards B, though, keeping World Edit away from being able to just cheat or put himself early over towards that A site. So again, pushed up play from Waylander. That worked out before. Doesn't look like Stanislaw is going to fall for it, though.
Well around from OpTic, changing their pace up once again, keeping FlipSid on their tiptoes. Interesting enough, you'll see a lot of CT sides, especially if they're losing a lot of rounds, they'll start to push somebody into upper and look at box halls and just try and do something, just try and get some information. FlipSid, again, extremely passive, and it's the same issue that we saw yesterday when they were playing Cobblestone, I believe, where they just kept falling into the same predictable outline over and over again and never mix things up. That's going to have to change, especially when they go through into the T-half, because OpTic will punish them. But again, sub 1 minute left, no real moves been made from either team.
You can't really blame OpTic for just playing this very slow and patient style at all. As you
Absolutely.
said, there's no one going for the aggressive information plays in any way, shape or form. I haven't seen one push down through Ivy, haven't seen the Brown Halls play. None of it's been there. So again, FlipSid just having to kind of read this blind, and at the moment they've got the players in the right place, so that's not the issue. But look at this line of smoke going down at the moment. Blade's the one who can really see above it, and he's the one who's been doing the work. 2 kills back to back. Naf and Stanislaw will be the ones to be removed. But here comes that firepower, always a response from OpTic, but it's an even 3v3.
Yes, but again, time is going to be an enemy of OpTic unless they can get the frags down, and there's Rush stepping back up again. It was him and Nafly earlier on the tournament. That's Sean for OpTic, not mixed well when he was off. And it's going to be Daps that rounds it off. So again, FlipSid, they get themselves around, they reset their round loss bonus and then lose afterwards. They are flat out broke again.
Oh, this is painful to watch for FlipSid. Any small bit of silver lining they've had to these rounds has been just kind of torn away by this, and Naf knows it as well. So straight onto the UMP, going to make some good bank off the back of this, hopefully for him. I've been playing occasionally down towards Ivy, not the case this time, so maybe going to take themselves somewhere different. Curious to see how they approach, maybe knowing they're coming up against an Ecode outside. Still seems very similar to normal. Again, Naf playing a little bit more attention towards possibility of a push up here, and he's right to be feeling so. Catches off Shara, and now they know that B is now going to be weaker, or maybe have to have someone rotated over towards it, as they lost out on their 1B defender normally.
And with FlipSid only on pistols, and OpTic will know that they've reset their own loss bonus. It should be easy pickings. They'll know exactly what's coming up. They'll have a good read on the game. Interesting enough, Daps, top fragging, 15 and 4, has been the standout player so far on Train. I'm a bit worried for my prediction now, Lauren. I said I thought FlipSid would have this. I did say it would be close, but it's been anything but close so far.
Don't worry.
Fairly one-sided.
OpTic's CT side was normally atrocious, so you can still maybe hope for that. But this T side is just so damn good. There's not too many ways to say it other than that. It is just really well formed. The timing, the trades, the fundamentals that OpTic seem to possess are extremely good, which is really endearing to see, considering this team is still looking for a coach, still looking for help throughout this game, yet to receive it. So again, there's a lot of potential here, and I think a lot of people are starting to see that throughout this tournament. Again, they're left down to Wilder and Blade. Anything's a bonus at this point. Their money being so trashed, it's going to be hard to look forward in this game to what else they can bring in. Considering they're so adamant to go for those double AWPs, it's always kept that economy fairly strapped. So yeah, this is going to be a tough one. It may just come down to that second half and hope that OpTic keep true to trend of just not being able to bite as hard as they can bark on their T sides.
It's a very good point. We'll just have to see if that ends up being the case again here, if they have managed to plug those gaps that have been letting them down time after time. Blade was going to get the drop, but Rush out timing and just getting around the corner outside onto A side. But it doesn't really matter, does it? OpTic Gaming have a 9-3 lead, and FlipSid have 3.7k on Waylander, just 3.9 on Blade, so nowhere near strong enough to get a healthy buy, and of course they want the open hands of World at it. They just tap out and allow maybe a 10th round to come to OpTic.
Running it close though, we've been seeing some incredibly, I'd say weird T-sides, no, just well played out T-sides. You had Hellraisers doing brilliantly on things like Nuke, which is really cool to see. I'm such a Nuke fan. Not maybe the new Nuke. Still needs some work, as I'm sure we're all aware, but yeah, I do like seeing good T-sides on that. I think it's very impressive. But into this one, upgrades of pistols to be seen, so there could be some more damage. And the Zeus again with Waylander in a good position to catch out someone like Mixwell or Rush. No one pushing up through B this time for them. But again, FlipSid having to work with so little here, it's kind of hard to watch, as it never felt they've been on a buy. Their money's been kept so darn low. I guess sometimes through their own choices and obviously the work of OpTic, but this has been a slow and meticulous play towards B thus far from OpTic. Clearing out those ghosts, Stanislaw can keep people pretty busy and dedicated towards that A side of things. The more kills he gets, the better it feels, because well, it's on the rotate towards B, and the bomb goes down, and all is looking good, aside from the fact they do lose out on Stanislaw.
Lose out on him, easily going to be able to replenish that weapon. However, FlipSid would happily take that through into the next round, and Blade's got that for himself with the Molotov as well. Can they get any more kills off the back of this? Yansup looking like a no, as Daps puts down the hammer once more. 2 kills for him, well, that it's Deagle, all that remains, but not for too long. OpTic have hit the all-important double digits already, and there are still 2 more rounds to play. FlipSid.
This is a real painful one to watch here. And again, straight in on those double orbs. And I just wish I could see as to why. I just haven't seen the logic behind the purchase yet, if I'm honest. It's not been working out. Maybe it's something they're just going to bank on, as they know that this one's pretty much locked in as is, and just hope that Markelov finds something. I want to see some aggression. I want to see them switch up and just stop being so passive in this. They haven't made any moves themselves here. I want to see them try and take some sort of control of these rounds, because right now it's rinse and repeat. It'll go down to about 40 seconds. You'll see the default smokes, and okay, the trades go far more favorably towards OpTic. They land the shots, they work together, and there you have it. And hell, if they go B, well, Shara gets singled out. Maybe what it makes there in time, but that's about all you get. There must be more here to FlipSid, because no timeout's been called, so you assume that they're still, very much mindset on what they want to do, but it's just not working out.
I'm very much in the same boat as you. This is very frustrating for me to watch, because I feel like, obviously we have the hindsight, and we have
2020 vision.
Exactly, and we have the mini-map and X-ray, but FlipSid, they've been playing passively now for 13, 14 rounds. It's not worked at all. Where's the impetus to go, okay, let's switch up. Let's maybe push through Ivy, get one of these orbs looking down, get some information, try and get around the back of OpTic, cause them a couple problems. Because OpTic right now, they can just sit in box halls and they're like, well, there's no chance they're going to push behind us in bot dog.
Oh god, and Mixwell just got boosted up and found word anyway. They know Shara's going to be here. He's the only other player that's ever played this at any point, so they're still going to check for it. I think someone may have spotted him. If not, they're still in a good position. They're working up together. Rush and Dap's going to be on surging forward. Bomb now planted. Naf holding the flank. This is looking no better for FlipSid.
I've got nothing to add. I feel like we're just going through the motions here, because FlipSid are ultimately, and OpTic must be loving life. This is one of the easiest games on train they probably ever played. And Markelov with the second AWP in a 1 versus 5 just wants to save it. The economy again is brutalized. He's still on only 2 kills. And the thing is as well, it's not like Markelov's been playing aggressive or he's been holding horrible angles. He's had an AWP like 4 times.
Yeah, he's just never done anything with the side. When the side hits come in from OpTic, they're pretty solid. So yeah, sure, they negate him kind of a little bit, but you can still make room for yourself again. Oh, there we go. Nice shot, Markelov. So yeah, 3-11. FlipSid, I don't know. You know what? I'm done, Metas. I'm just done here. This is very tough to watch. I want to see them bring something back here, but it's been so lackluster from them.
It's hard to hype, but imagine passing back to Alex and the desk. Like, how do you break this down? OpTic just were way, way better in every single aspect.
Yeah. And this is why I wish someone sometimes on occasion you can see the triggering happening with Yanko. You need his face of anger to really bring it home. And now they're playing a little bit more aggressive. Now they're a little bit pushed up. Look at Blade. Look at Waylander. Okay, now they're being a little bit closer on this, but Stanislaw already snuck through. So 3 players are pretty vulnerable unless Blade gets the drop on him, does get the frag. So finally they switch something up in the final round of the first half.
Yeah, let's leave it to the 15th round, boys. Finally, we realize what's happened. Nice shot from Waylander. Mid-air second for him, but where was this FlipSid 15, 20 minutes ago?
All right, the scoreline is 11-4 right now. This has been a very curious half for any of you FlipSid fans. Not looking like what we expect. But guys, we're going to be back after a very short break, so do stay tuned. The second half will be kicking off soon. All right, welcome back. We are ready for the second half now. OpTic Gaming up 11 rounds to the mere 4 for FlipSid. We've had a bit of a battering on their first half. And, well, why don't you take this away into the pistol?
Well, a point you highlighted, though, if we are going to try and be optimistic for FlipSid, is that OpTic don't have the greatest CT history,
True.
so maybe the comeback is possible, but it all has to start here. This pistol is of so much importance to FlipSid. If they can get this, they can draw their way back in. If they lose this, I feel like they're already a step out of this matchup, potentially. CZ for Rush. Daps landing 19 kills in the first half. Very nearly lands himself another couple as he's looking for those one taps, but dropped down to 20. Has to turn tail and run, and in doing so, we are going to see history repeat itself, with FlipSid deciding to try and get this bomb planted on B.
Well, still 5v4 though. This is very much in the hands of OpTic, and well, with FlipSid walking at them at the moment, it's going to be much easier, but Markov making it hard. Going to find Naf, take him down, but not going to find any more. The CZ starts to ring true, and now it's just down to Waylander in a 1v3. They had the molly, utilized it towards Connector, and now Waylander has to take the straight up fight. He gets a great shot towards Rush. Starts his round looking for more. There's a kit on Mixwell, so time is certainly not up yet. Expects the close push. He gets the tag, but nothing more to come of it. There's a defuse to come out. 4 kills for Mixwell that round, so good for him to get himself building up nice and early. Look towards maybe that AWP as fast as possible. And in the end, Mixwell looking around to get all that utility that may have been dropped. Collect it up, and there you have it. Defuse comes in, OpTic off to the start that if you wanted a close game, you probably wouldn't be hoping for.
Up until that point, Mixwell only was on 8 for 6, but it's important not to look at the stats here, because stats only tell half the picture.
Yep.
The fact of the matter is that Daps, Rush, Nafly were charging through on sites, wrecking everyone before Mixwell could even get an AWP shot off, so he wasn't required to get a bunch of frags. That 4 kill, massive in the pistol, and as I said, a hugely important, a vital lifeline for FlipSid. Goes begging, goes wanting, slip through their fingers.
FlipSid have to just kind of go, well, forgo this round. Again, ideally, if you were them, put in the position that OpTic were, you'd be playing for plants. They've got one already. To get another would be absolutely great. You can see Daps is expecting this, and that's not too hard to understand, of course. This side is much easier to hit as a collective to get that bomb plant out of. Backs away, gives the nade up. He's not able to use that anymore. That's been just kind of thrown to the wind, but now the 5 players from FlipSid are still going to stick this one out. You've got Mixwell there as well, so keeping this one pretty competitive so far. Not going to be giving away the full game. The other 3 players have yet to rotate, and there we go. Mixwell going to spray into it. Doesn't actually get much out of that, and now here we go. Finally, Daps coming to the action. He's got the MP9, so looking for back, but actually doesn't get much. And the bomb has been planted. Good stuff from FlipSid. Any more is a bonus.
That's exactly it. Again, very similar to what we said when OpTic on the T side. 2 consecutive bomb plants onto B. Unlikely to get anything afterwards, but their mission is accomplished. The issue now, though, is that whereas OpTic Gaming had the world's their oyster, they had so many rounds that they could play with, FlipSid simply don't. They already find themselves at 9 round, pardon me, maths is easy, apparently, a 9 round deficit. And it has to start here, and they do have a decent amount of money. Wayland are going to go for the AK as well. I thought maybe think about the AWP, but that's not going to happen.
Yep. All rifles, good deal of utility to bring. Mixwell has the AWP on the CT side, so hopefully has more success than we saw with Markov, for example. However, you know, Welded it wasn't exactly bad at it. He just didn't have much more to do. They were getting completely overwhelmed by those entries. So looks like we're going to be seeing aggression start from the CT side. Already Standstill pushing up towards Pop. Going to get a nice early stance with it. Naf pushing up by Ivy as well. Looking for that frag towards Markov, and he'll find it's already a massive advantage towards OpTic. A good deal of information, but it may be the wrong information, because look at it. It's going to be the B here. Daps, only with the UMP, has to hold back the flood that's coming in right now.
Oh, no way. 2 kills for Daps by himself for the UMP, and Mixwell as well from the back. Oh, FlipSid, that just sums up this map in a nutshell. Like, just play that highlight. That's it. FlipSid, rest in peace. They can't bounce back from this now. I'm going to say it right here. I'm going to go full Moses, if you will. OpTic win this match now, surely.
Yeah, there can't be more to this. FlipSid, sadly, economy-wise, it's almost impossible for them to break back in. That's a big thing here. It's not just, you know, making wayward predictions. You look at it money-wise, you're absolutely spot on. This is going to be very tough. Going to make it a little bit more costly. Blade needs to find something very much of a miracle style performance, because Naf's already on the long walk. He's gone all the way around. And this is what we wanted from FlipSid, just a bit of aggression, a bit of presence, not just being passive, not just sitting back and expecting double ults to retake A site every single time. So Blade, pick your poison. Oh, he's just going to give it over towards Stanislaw. There you go, pinned up in the air like the old LG and Quake, just going to rail him down with the Famous, and now we have 14-4. Money is not good for FlipSid as well.
Not many things are good.
Now you pause?
Yep. I mean, fair enough, I suppose. They find themselves in a best of one with a lot on the line. I guess you do whatever you can to stay in this game. You fight tooth and nail, but yeah, you pretty much, your reaction sums it up. FlipSid, it's too little too late. You know, the aggression on the 15th round of CT, too little too late. Going aggressive when it's a 1v4, too little too late. It's a recurring theme, and this pause is all well and good, but I mean, ultimately, this is likely going to be an eco. Maybe they'll go for a force up and see what they can get done. They've just run out of time.
They really have, and sadly for FlipSid, they can only really blame themselves for this. This is not the FlipSid I expected to see in this. I thought we'd see a much closer game, and every time I've said we were going to see a close game, I have been completely wrong. But more credit than anything to OpTic for just playing very well. They don't seem like they've been particularly challenged in this game yet. I think that maybe down the line we could have maybe seen something more coming out from FlipSid on the T side if there were more rounds to play with. But as you said throughout this one, that really there's not that much to work with anymore. There's no kind of buffer period here. It's pretty much done.
No, it pretty much is done. We saw glimpses of FlipSid, Waylander, standout player in front. Let me just double check his score. 14-15, he's top fragging by 5. And when you consider the rest of his team is like around 9-7 kills, not particularly fantastic. But yeah, as I said, OpTic, that's one of the easiest T-halves they're going to have in train ever.
Pretty much.
There was no
resistance fleas.
fluidity, adaption, whatever you want to call it, evolution from FlipSid's CT side. It was almost like we're going to put 3 players on A, 2 on B. We're going to have world edit, sweep between connector. Going to have Markelov watching Ivy, and there you go. Pick us to pieces.
And you can see on their faces that this has not been a fun game, and you can't really blame them for that. They just sit there so dejected. And yeah, they need to dig deep here. This is reminding ourselves the major qualifier. This isn't just a random event. It's not just a small tournament. This is their chance to make it further here. Again, OpTic are fighting tooth and nail for this. They've been playing incredibly hard throughout this tournament. We've still seen some actually quite impressive stuff from these guys. I'd still say that overall they will probably maybe shy away against a tougher opponent, but so far the Veto going this way to a map where, actually, excuse me, FlipSid are very good on. They're proving themselves time and time again. So 14-4, the unpause has come in. We'll be back underway in a couple of seconds, but yeah, I don't know, Metis. This has been a tough one to watch, to be fair.
It has. There's been a couple of tough games to watch.
Yeah.
I had the pleasure, the privilege of casting Renegade Splice.
Oh, we treat you right here.
Yeah, that was an interesting game. Let's just leave it at that. This is shaped up to be fairly similar, I'm not going to lie. Although OpTic, they have played fantastically.
Yes.
So I'm not going to say it's been terrible Counter-Strike across the board. OpTic have done their part in this story.
Definitely.
Just FlipSid obviously not reading the script or just refusing to go along with it. But here we go. Looks like it's going to be a B play. They do have upgraded pistols, some Kevlar, some grenades. So maybe they can upset and at least get a 5th round on the board.
Good timing on the molly there from Daps. That's going to buy enough time for Mixwell to come and support this one, but he actually does get overwhelmed by Shara in the end. But Mixwell lining him up, dropping them down. That's 3 already, back-to-back. Beautiful work coming from the nade as well, timing it to some sublime amount. So Mixwell gets 4 there. What a absolutely stunning round. Never overwhelmed, always looking in control. Cool, calm, and collected. And that's going to put him on to match point. 15-4 now. One last go at it for FlipSid. And they need this. My God, do they need this.
Everyone on OpTic has more kills than deaths. Not a stat you say too often.
No.
And FlipSid have nobody with more kills than deaths. Waylander the closest, 14 for 16 now. FlipSid, again, no AWP on this half thus far, which could be the last round of the half, and indeed the matchup. And here's the nuts thing as well. OpTic, if they win this, they'll be 2-1 with the potential to qualify tomorrow for the major.
Correct.
That, sure, they're a solid team, but I'm not sure how many people would have predicted that. Daps is going to get the close range frag onto World, and it like it's picked off in the meanwhile. But there is Daps again. He has been unstoppable. Finally, though, the curse comes in, and Waylander picks him off.
What an absolute rock for the side. Markelov is the only one to not have woken up just as of yet, but finally maybe a little bit of a stirring there. Now, does get caught out in the end. So bring it back to an even 2v2. This becomes a little bit difficult. You've got Stanislaw over by A. You've got Mixwell in towards Connector. I think they're just grouping up, making sure that there's not going to be an ace blaze the next big thing, but they hear the smoke go down. Mixwell knows what's coming. He spots a leg, he sees it, and now Stanislaw is en route. Nade goes in, doesn't do as much damage as he'd hoped, but now it's retake time.
I thought that grenade had serious damage written all over it, but just the S-nade things just scrapes him instead. Always looking for the feet underneath the train, so you can get that cheeky frag. Meanwhile, Stanislaw's going to be pushing in. Beautiful headshot, gets traded out, but does give the information across, and Waylander nearly whiffs his opportunity. Lands the double, and that's 1 of 10 more rounds required for FlipSid.
I'm surprised Stanislaw didn't get that information that the player was over by that train, because I'm pretty sure Mixwell saw those feet. Almost certain. So when it obviously picked up the first on the site, on the kind of bomb train on B, or at least the carriage part, I was surprised he didn't instantly go towards that. But again, small pieces there. When you're 15 to 5 up, you're certainly in a good spot. Still able to buy into this one as well. So nothing too bad yet for OpTic to start worrying. FlipSid again, all pressure towards them. It's their T-side. They have to be the dominant force here. Look at OpTic, they're playing it relatively standard. Nothing too special just yet. Just taking their time in this one. Again, leaving it all down to FlipSid. See what they can do, see what they can bring. They're the ones with all the pressure here. They're the ones who have to go on 10-round, you know, comeback tour to even consider this game to be on. So this is still yet written in stone, but certainly looking like the hammer and chisel is out at this point.
Oh, it's going to be hard graft for FlipSid. Make no mistake. As I said, all the pressure's off OpTic. Sure, if they start to lose 7 rounds, 8 rounds, maybe double digits for FlipSid, then they can start to worry a little bit. But they've got time. They've got time and money to burn. FlipSid make one more mistake that could cost them this match. So all the pressure on their shoulders. Here comes the smokes going to try and fend off Mixwell. A decent job at making them relocate, but of course he can just get on top of the train. And meanwhile, Naps is getting flashed, mollied, but no push from FlipSid. So that's a lot of expended utility without much result. Now here comes the cavalry charge in, and Daps, the man on form, is there to try and filter out and separate the hood. How is he still alive? He's actually getting picked off from Sharma. There's Wall at it as well. FlipSid finally with a successful B take.
Yeah, Mixwell and Naf, though, are the only two close by at this point. Rush is on a quick flank, and Markloff doing just the same thing. But it's well that they're having dominance here. He's the one defending the site pretty predominantly. 2 kills with that AWP. As you said, surprising that Daps was able to stay alive so long. And same could be said, I guess, for Mixwell as well in this. But in the end, FlipSid do look victorious into this round. 4 alive, pushing forward, surging to try and find the likes of Naf and maybe Rush if they can get that away. I'll be in a better position themselves, but this is do or die time again for FlipSid, and just those all-in B hits coming in. Keeping that many players alive that long was absolutely perfect. Only losing out on 1. And Naf can hear all these steps. He needs to be quite careful. He's desperately trying to stay alive himself. The money for them, again, not robust, so he could do with keeping hold of these, and he went just a little bit too far into the eyes of wanted it.
I feel like if they saved 2 weapons, maybe they'd have gone for a force. Although that being said, I would have probably thought with such a massive round lead, there's no rush to go for a force buy. So if they just hold off, they can get an AWP in Mixwell's hands. He's on 4.9k. They go for a Deagle. In fact, I think the Deagle's dropped across for him, so he can get a little bit more grenades into the next round. So again, you can't really get hyped or carried away by this. You know, FlipSid, fair enough. That's 1 hurdle navigated. You have like 100 more to go.
Yeah, it's so far from over here. Blade maybe needs to not overextend by himself. You don't want to give them even a small margin to work under. Don't make individual plays here. You want to keep as a team, and they've been doing just fine at this. They've actually pulled all the players over towards A, and Naf has spread out that there's no one coming down Ivy. There's no one on that side. They should just hit that B site. That's exactly what they're doing. So off they go. Bomb goes down. The saved rifle in Rush's hands at this point. Probably going to be just kept into the next one, as the other 3 with limited options of what to do here.
Raylander continues to be the solo shining light in a fairly dark, dreary landscape. FlipSid. Mixwell, Deagle's down. How many kills can he take with him to the grave? Because you assume in this position he's living on borrowed time. Starting back and forth on the train, 2nd kill comes in. Not like this FlipSid. I don't think there's enough time anyway without any diffuse kits for him to get it done. But of course, every weapon that's taken away is going to hurt FlipSid's economy. Rush will be saving the M4. So another bullet dodge for FlipSid, but OpTic will have a buy in the next round, including an AWP. It looks like Rush will save.
Alright, so he's going to keep that on hand. 7 to 15 now. Starts to get a little, not unnerving yet, as you said, double digits, it might start getting a little bit scarier, but we said it before, FlipSid are no shadows of the former selves normally when they play the T side. They are a very competent, highly competitive team on it. So far, they haven't been up against much resistance. There's still yet to be that full buy, which is what we're going to be seeing now. So as you said, the AWP will be Mixer well. We've got Welder as well with his, but look at this stance from OpTic. I like this. Pushing forward a little, playing to support each other. Rush and Stanislaw focusing towards teammate, focusing towards Strop. Then you've got Naf sitting a little further back by Ivy, and Daps again, the kind of most consistent player, I'd say, or at least the most interesting player for me to be the one to step up over on that B site. So FlipSid, going to take the time on this. They could actually eventually punish Naf if he goes walkabouts again. They are spreading throughout this map, not overcommitting anywhere initially, and they're holding on to this utility quite late into this.
Yeah, and they showed a lot of control on this on the T side as well, just waiting for those last sort of 10, 15, 20 seconds before they pulled the trigger. 3 players strong on Ivy. OpTic have no idea about this one as they're playing more passively. But see Stanislaw, he died a couple times from pop dog pushes. This time he's going to look to be the aggressor. That flight coming in, 2 players to his right-hand side. Make it 3 actually as the flashbangs connect on both sides of Ivy. He's going to go back in for second, jumps across, and it's going to be World Edit taking point with the AWP who gets picked off. Very odd passenger play, but a big frag from Waylander keeps the dream alive.
Yeah, Rush is about to be pinched in, but actually managed to find the perfect angle to take down Waylander. Now left into a 3v2. OpTic do have the upper hand. And Markov not exactly been a highlight player for the FlipSid boys, but Blade maybe looking for some opportunities. Still 2 mollies left with them, but on the other side, there's so much they can still work down that time with 20 seconds left. FlipSid are going to be forced into a corner here. Markov desperate to find an angle, but Rush is starting to predict this. He's starting to read the time very well, adjust his position towards Electric perfectly, but they can't trade effectively here for FlipSid. They get one, but Daps does manage to find him back, and now left in a 1v2. Time is running out. It looks like this is all she wrote. 4 seconds left. He's going to go for the bomb plant, but OpTic actually don't come right into this. Markov still has a chance here.
He does have a chance, but he's on 55 health. 2 separate situations and directions to peer out, although Mixwell has an AWP. Markov just holding the angle. This would be a sick clutch. Just would make amends for some of those poor performances earlier on the map, and he's been spotted. Gonna go for the spray now. Mixwell's there, and he's gonna be landing the USP headshot. OpTic Gaming will finalize 16-7. And a match that I honestly thought would be very close has been one of the most one-sided performances of the entire tournament.
Really, really was. FlipSid looking static, looking a little worse for wear, if I'm honest. I'm a little bit let down by that. I thought it was going to be a much better game, much more competitive game from them, but you know, we started to see some signs of life in the second half, but again, that first half was so lackluster, and OpTic, credit to them, played extremely well there. Mixwell having a good game, but it was Daps pretty much leading the fray. Yeah,
Daps had a standout performance for me, but again, there was a lot of support as well. You had Rush, you had Navfly, also Mixwell in the second half. Pulled off, I think, 2 4Ks, if memory serves me correctly, including the pistol round. So everyone pulling their weight for OpTic, a really encouraging performance. But on the other side of the coin, FlipSid, that is one of the biggest. I nearly actually went a bit too
Alex?
far. Yeah, I nearly went full Alex. That was a poor performance. Let's leave it at that.
Yeah, and speaking of Alex, let's head down to the analysis desk and see what they have to say about that performance.
Thanks, Metis. I will be very careful with what I say now as I do introduce the analysts for this segment. I've got Blue and Vendetta. I'm going to speak nice and slowly, thinking about every word I say. Let's kind of reflect then. We did paint the picture. You in particular, however, had belief in FlipSids, as did Metis. OpTic seemed to run rampant over on the first half. Was that just North America showing up, or was there some real downsides to Flip?
First off, very well played by OpTic. They stayed true to what they did in the game versus Fluffy Gangsters. They're able to take yard control so quickly and just kind of force the CTs into falling back positions that are not really advantageous, where they have to go for retakes, which is just really hard to do out in yard. Got favorable trades. Dabs played an amazing game overall. And FlipSid on their side, they kind of tried something new. When we saw them at Star Ladder when they played Train and actually beat Na'Vi, who are no slouches on that map, we never really saw that double op setup coming out. And, well, I guess, oh yeah.
That was really bugging me. Okay.
Thank you for looking out.
I got you, man. Got you covered.
No, but yeah, so at Star Ladder,
yeah.
It was a bit different because they never went to a double op setup. World was perfectly fine just roaming out on his own in yard on the CT side. But this time he got some help. Or I guess it wasn't that much help from Markov, but we did see him pick up the op, and that obviously puts a strain on your economy.
And you talk about AWPs, I feel like it would be rude not to mention Mixwell Blue. He had a breakout performance both on his T and CT sides.
Even on the CT side there too, he was an absolute boss in the back of the B-bomb site. Keeps like miraculously keeping himself alive in these sorts of situations, partially because of the fact that for some reason FlipSid were never able to really punish him in that position, but right behind the train stoppers there in the back past Z and all of that, he was still picking up multiple frags there and opening up opportunities. It did take a little while for that really to ring into true effectiveness and his teammates to take edge on that, but still he was giving his teammates a lot of those chances to just end rounds outright.
On FlipSid's T side, where they did start to build up a little bit of pace, it did look. You made an interesting observation before in the green room, Ven. You said that it's almost a complete opposite of what OpTic were attempting, where it goes for OpTic were just drive runs all the way over in towards the A side, and then the inner side then was for FlipSid's target. I mean, would you argue that it's easier to kind of make that work over on towards the A side than it would be over towards inner?
I think it's completely dependent on what kind of team you're going up against. And normally, FlipSid is a pretty decent team at holding yard. Normally, we see more of an impact from World Edit, but he got shut down completely. So that's more down to the credit of OpTic being actually good at taking yard rather than that part of the map being easier to take necessarily than B, because you could see that when FlipSid actually have enough nades and utilities to actually go towards that inner bomb site, it's really hard for OpTic to actually hold it off because there's so many smokes and molotovs that eliminate position you can use, and that's where Mixwell comes in big by just staying alive at the back spot, and finding frag here and there comes in very helpful. But if they can't find that, then both sides are very manageable to take with the right.
Okay,
nades.
so I mean, basically to summarize, it doesn't matter as long as you're good at it.
Yeah, no, it really comes down to what your specialty and what your strengths are as a team, and that obviously varies from player to player, what kind of players you have.
And just final point, you mentioned player. I do want to just quickly touch on Daps. Was this an unusual performance from him? Is he not usually the shining star? Or I mean, you look to be disagreeing with me already.
No, he's been doing pretty well for the past couple of weeks now. There's still one guy that I'm still looking to step up to the plate again, which is Rush, who had a pretty good couple of weeks, but then for some reason after Stevel, he dropped off a bit. But still, there's always been Daps for the past couple of weeks who's been performing incredibly well.
Well, that's one step closer for OpTic as they do pick up that win. That puts them at 2 wins now and just 1 game away from the major. It really does start getting interesting here at the offline qualifiers. And of course, the opposite for FlipSid, where they'll be joining the 2-loss pool alongside Immortals and Dignitas. It's a scary place to be, there's no doubt about it. And up next, we've got an equally as exciting game. It's Cloud9 versus Tyloo. One of the casters said this is his favorite game for today. It should be fantastic between the Chinese side and the other North American hopeful. So we're going to take a quick break, but when we do come back, it's going to be another blockbuster here in Katowice.
Thank you very much, Alex. We will eventually be going to that break, but quickly let's chat to NAF. Now, you guys there, second train map of this tournament, third CIS team you've gone up against this tournament as well. It's funny the way the world works out sometimes, but for you there as well, another really dominant performance in general for your team on train. You played similarly dominantly against Fluffy Gangsters yesterday, and we actually saw them as well as FlipSid give you a heck of a lot of space on that A site when you went into it there. Did you find it was fairly similar, I guess, playing up against FlipSid as it was up against Fluffy Gangsters?
Yeah, I would say like Fluffy Gangsters, they played very like passive, same as FlipSid. So yeah, we abused that, I would say. And we also, Daps and Mixwell, they both like put time in and watched how FlipSid played. So yeah, I guess we had a really good idea going into the match against FlipSid.
Fun fact, Mixwell's actually the #2 rated player in the world on train, but Daps had an incredible game as well as the rest of you guys did. So let's talk about your preference for hitting the A side on the T side as well, because you guys were going there pretty much every chance you could. I think there were maybe 1 or 2 occasions where you did opt to go B, but why that specific preference for A?
I think it's just because we have a lot of like strategies towards A, and plus, like I said before, we watched how they played, so like we knew like their rotations pretty well and like how they played. So I would just say like we just knew what we were doing on the outer bomb site.
So now with Mixwell coming into the team as well, you guys have a super dynamic weapon in both of you, obviously double AWPing up and actually having really strong presence and impact on a lot of the maps we've seen. Has that changed your style at all as the initial sort of main AWPer at all with Mixwell on board?
No, not really before, because before we had Shazam, he was the primary AWPer, and I was still the secondary AWPer. So it honestly didn't really change anything. Like no spots really changed at all. It's just swapped an AWPer out for an AWPer.
And we did see that as well, obviously, back in the day, you and Shazam going at it. So thank you so much for joining us here as well. Obviously, 2-1 for you. That's definitely a good result. And we hope to see more from you later on. This has been an interview with myself and Naf, of course. After the break, it's going to be West versus East, Cloud9 versus Tyloo here on the main stage. Tune in. Don't miss it. That one's going to be big.
He's going to